Crap more, gang. There is some more disturbing revelations coming out of the Epstein files, and this one is going to chill you to your core, because it's now being revealed that apparently the day before Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell, apparently they had already drafted the press release for his death. Now, I couldn't really believe this when I heard it, but I am seeing this absolutely everywhere on Reddit. And it's just not adding up. It's not making sense. And I'm scared. I'm honestly quite scared. I was going to wrap it up. I was going to stop talking about this. But every day there is a new revelation. There's a new bombshell in the files. And this one makes it pretty hard to believe that somebody didn't know what was going down in that cell. I'm scared to even say what it is. Look, this is one of several posts that I'm going to show you talking about the same thing. It says an internal draft of the New York Southern District's press release announcing Jeffrey Epstein's death, stated a day before his body was found. Now, people are saying, how does this make sense? An internal draft of the New York Southern District's press release announcing Jeffrey Epstein's death is dated the day before the body was found. The press release itself is still posted live online and dated Saturday, August the 10th, the day his body was found. But the internal draft of the press release is dated the day before. Now, people say it's actually embarrassing for the US government how obvious of a cover-up it is. They're saying, agree, they had one job, all right? So they're saying this is the final press release. So I believe this was the original press release that's got the wrong date on it. Now, is it possible that maybe they accidentally typed the wrong date, saved it, and then realized? I guess so. I'll read you what it says, but this says for immediate release, Friday, August the 9th, 2019. Now, if you didn't know, now, I can't show you what's at the bottom of this photo, okay? But what I can show you here is it's basically, these are kind of like reports from within the prison, the Metropolitan Correctional Center. And this says, it's a picture. I won't show it to you. And I didn't know these pictures existed, okay? These are unredacted photos of Epstein's resuscitation. I can't show you these on YouTube. I might do another video looking at these, maybe on my Patreon. If you want to see that, let me know down below. But this says the time that this photo was taken, and they're all crowding around his body trying to resuscitate him. This is at 6:33 a.m., all right, on the 10th of August. So, press release talking about August the 9th, 2019 just don't really add up. How? 6 a.m. And this is the same. The first thing I thought was maybe it's in a different time zone, but then this is New York. This is the Southern District of New York. So this says statement of Manhattan U.S. Attorney on the death of defendant Jeffrey Epstein. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Jeffrey S. Berman earlier this morning, the Manhattan Correctional Center confirmed that Jeffrey Epstein, it's interesting it said earlier this morning, right? Because we knew it was in 6 a.m. mission. Anyway, I don't even want to say the wrong thing here. Jeffrey Epstein, who faced charges brought by this office of engaging in trafficking of minors, had been found unresponsive in his cell and pronounced dead shortly thereafter. Today's events are disturbing, and we're deeply aware of their potential to present yet another hurdle to giving Epstein's many victims their day in court. What a shame. What an unfortunate coincidence. To those brave young women who have already come forward and to the many others who have yet to do so, let me reiterate that we remain committed to standing for you in our investigation of the conduct charged in the indictment, which included a conspiracy count, remains ongoing. Now, maybe you've got to look into that conspiracy count. I don't even know what to say, okay? So we continue to urge anyone who feels they may be a victim or have information related to the conduct in this case, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Imagine you're a victim and you see this debacle going around and you think, oh yeah, I think I'll call in. Yeah, the conspiracy. Yeah, I'll call in. I'm not trying to be on the wrong side of this conspiracy. Now, a lot of people have noticed, okay, this is the pre-release, the pre-order, all right, pre-saved. They pre-saved this body and it's got 19XXX at the bottom of it. Now, apparently this is the official one. This is the correct one. Okay, and this one's got some redactions, but this one says August the 10th. They've got this right. Okay, but the text is basically the same. All right, he's been found unresponsive in his cell earlier this morning is exactly the same. All right, and they're still, they're still urging you to call in. You should call in, but this one's actually got some correct information. So, yeah, people are saying the identifier at the bottom of the page is corrected. It says, wow, so that further proves it was written on the 9th and approved on the 10th and a file number updated. Here's the live version dated August the 10th. Is this actually on the website? Yeah, this is the actual one that was published on the website. It's got the date there. Crazy. Okay, this one is actually on the website. It's the exact same text, so we don't need to worry about that. People saying, whoopsie. All right. That's interesting. It says, don't know if it means anything, but Epstein is told to be a 66-year-old black male. He was definitely blackmailing people. Just found it to be interesting. A document about psychology services intake screening on the 7th of August 2019, 3 days before his checking out. It's interesting. There's some interesting stuff in this document. I mean, this probably won't surprise you, right? But essentially, he basically explains, you know... Yeah, he basically explains, look, protective factors. Mr. Epstein adamantly denied current suicidal ideation or intent or a history of self-deletion attempts. He stated, I have no interest in offing myself, he explained. Although this situation is not perfect due to him being incarcerated, he noted he has lots to do for his legal case. He described having a wonderful life to include interactions with interesting people and projects. He said, it would be crazy to take his life. He furthered, I would not do that to myself. He denied feelings of hopelessness, although he did report being depressed and unhappy about his current situation. He previously denied a history of childhood abuse. He's reported he's sleeping adequately now he's no longer in the shoe. He appears future-oriented as he endorsed an interest in being housed in Gen Pop. He adamantly denied self-deletionality, okay? In light of his vague self-report regarding the incident which precipitated his placement on S-Watch, combined with his fear of his own safety, he reported difficulty managing his time in the shoe and the high-profile nature of his alleged offense. He'll be stepped down from S-Watch to psychological observation, okay? He said he would not do that. Now, how crazy is this as well? Look at this. They said, asked about the alleged incident which transpired yesterday resulting in his placement on S-Watch, Mr. Epstein said he's frustrated he's been placed in a punishment cell for no reason. Specifically, he was referring to his placement in the shoe. Asked to recall events surrounding the alleged incident, Mr. Epstein said his cellmate was playing with a bedsheet and claimed he does not recall the events thereafter. He said he recalled eating meat and drinking water and claimed the next events for which his memory is hearing himself snore and waking up on a stretcher. He said he does not recall himself or his cellmate tying a string or rope around his neck. He said he's been trying to remember and racking his mind. Asked if he experienced any interpersonal issues with his cellmate, Epstein described his cellmate as agitated and claimed that the cellmate called him a PDF file for the first time yesterday. He said his cellmate was reportedly reading a newspaper article about Mr. Epstein, which bothered him, and it was something he believed to be strange for there to be an article about him in his cell. Mr. Epstein recalled throwing away the newspaper photograph of himself by crumpling it and flushing it down the toilet. After his cellmate ever threatened to harm him, he denied that. Asked why he told the inmate companions yesterday that his cellmate tried to kill him while also claiming no memory of the incident. I guess he wasn't a snitch. Call him a disgusting PDF, but I guess he wasn't a snitch. Mr. Epstein said he didn't recall the incident and further stated, I don't know if he put it there as a joke. He explained he'd been experiencing difficulty sleeping in his shoe cell due to inmate peers banging on the door and cell window, but he hasn't been experiencing any other acute issues. Reason for removal from watch? He said, I have no interest in offing myself. Right? No interest. It would be crazy, all right? He did express a feeling of safety being housed in the psychological observation rather than the shoe. He didn't want to be in the shoe, and that's where he ended up checking out, right? He asked if he could remain on this status for a few days. He was advised his housing situation will be reevaluated on a day-to-day basis. He expressed a desire to be in Gen Pop rather than the shoe and asked if there was a safer unit for him to be housed in comparison to the one he was initially placed. He claimed there were many MS-13 gang members on the initial unit, and he was advised he'll be maintained on psychological observation for the future. Okay. So here's a little bit more background on the supposed initial attempt, all right? He basically said he was found by shoe staff in his cell with a string loosely tied around his neck. It's unclear at this time if he had placed the string around his own neck. When he was asked by this writer how he ended up on S-Watch, he denied remembering. He said he got a drink of water last night in his cell and went back to bed. Next thing he remembered was hearing himself snore. He said he wants to know why he's on S-Watch, and he informed staff, stated he was found in his cell with a string on his neck. Refused to tell and say that the cellmate tried to kill him. I'm scared. So I've just seen an interesting comment here. It says the only difference between those two press releases in the body text between the draft and the published statement is the phrase apparent self-deletion appearing in the published one and the file number. So as you can see here, right, this is the one from August the 9th, 2019. And this says he'd been found unresponsive in his cell and pronounced dead shortly thereafter. But then when you go to the one that was on the 10th of August, it says, found unresponsive in his cell and was pronounced dead shortly thereafter of an apparent self-deletion. So, Interesting how they drafted that and updated it, right? It's saying that's literally how a draft is updated to the final release. They use a letterhead template that says 19xxx and you fill in the info. The date by itself isn't proof that it was drafted earlier. I could open a template and accidentally write yesterday's date onto it. Doesn't prove that I made the file yesterday. You would need to see an actual file info or an email record to prove this was the file created and content was drafted on this date. Friday the 9th, the 9 instead of the 10, I believe, but Friday instead of Saturday, I wouldn't. Wait, Friday the 9th of August. Saturday, the 10th of August. Yeah, they did get the date right. They did get the date right. I'm scared. I'm really scared. Okay, they're saying news media going to look into this, or it's just us? What a disgrace. You mean the news media owned by billionaire friends of Epstein? Oh my. I can hear the gaslighting now. It was just a typo. Just a typo. Just a typo. The one reasonable explanation is the person who wrote this draft with the wrong date when they learned of the self-deletion on Saturday. However, Word usually inserts commas or inserts the correct date when you start typing it, but 2 copies were released. Looks like this document exists in 2 distinct versions. If you were to get the date wrong, you would go back and update and resend it, but the second version has an updated date, added language. I don't know. So look, okay, there's a few different versions of this going around on the different subreddits. Okay, they're saying, why would the government draft a press release saying that Epstein died a day before he actually died? Okay, saying, was this in the files? It's a very good point. People are saying they're monitoring the Epstein subreddit. I feel like every time something good is pointed out in this sub, it gets removed from the doc shortly thereafter. Now, I saw some pretty sensational stuff in the Epstein subreddit yesterday that did very quickly get deleted, and I'm going to talk about that in a separate video, but there was some crazy stuff, some of the craziest stuff that I've seen, and it was deleted. It says, this has been posted, then mysteriously deleted at least a couple times in recent days. They can just stop trying to censor it. It's out. We see it. Outside of Epstein world, I would be willing to believe they just messed up the date, but it is strange. Why would they enter anything but the final draft with the correct date into evidence? They also messed up the day, number, and day, timeline, and more info here. People saying save it and keep posting it everywhere. Who do you think's mysteriously deleting it? Right? I thought maybe they messed up the date too, but if that was the case, it would say Saturday, August the 9th instead of Friday, August the 9th. The fact the day matches up to the date, the 9th was a Friday, makes it less likely to be a typo. They're saying exactly. This wasn't an error. I screenshotted it 1 second before it disappeared, but I need to now find it. Okay. Here's an NDA agreement from the night Epstein died. Inmates said a woman killed Epstein. Oh my God. No. It says this one is the closest to a smoking gun. They redacted the female guard's name, who they said killed him, which is super suspicious. Oh my God. Oh my God. Here's another summary of the night of the death. Should we look at it? I'm scared. I'm scared. Okay. So this is an NDA, and it's attached to like a bunch of these internal reports made by the Federal Bureau of Prisons and Department of Justice about the incident. There's a summary here. I'll just read you the summary. I mean, we already know this, but we'll just recap. It says, on August the 10th, not 9th, 2019, approximately 6:33 a.m., inmate Epstein Jeffrey was found unresponsive in his assigned cell in the Special Housing Unit, aka the SHU. Inmate Epstein was pronounced dead just over an hour and 3 minutes later at 7:36 a.m. by the emergency room physician at the local hospital. During a conversation with the operations lieutenant officer, Knoll stated that she and Officer Thomas did not conduct the 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. count. Operations lieutenant had also had a conversation with Mr. Thomas where he stated, "We messed up. You think?" Miss Knoll and Miss Thomas were asked to provide memorandums for the incident. They both stated they were traumatized and needed to go home. Can't talk about it. I'm traumatized, need to go home. They also stated they wanted to contact the union president to review any memorandum and that they would have to write. Need a lawyer. So this is another report on what went down in the prison. It's got a lot of interesting details about how Epstein actually wound up being there. This says the FBI arrested Epstein on the trafficking charges Saturday, the 6th of July in 2019. He was arrested at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey upon returning from Paris, France, and he was transported to the Federal Bureau of Prisons at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, located at 150 Park Row, New York, and keyed into Century that evening and put in the MCC, which housed 750 inmates at any given time, and assigned inmates to various housing units within the MCC. He was originally put in the MCC's general population, but he was then moved to the Special Housing Unit pending reclassification due to significant increase in media coverage and awareness of his notoriety among the inmate population. So he was put in the SHU within the MCC, where inmates are securely separated from Gen Pop to ensure their safety as well as the safety of the staff. The SHU is located on the 9th floor of MCC, and the access to that floor is controlled by a locked door that can be opened remotely only by MCC staff members in the MCC Centralized Control Center on the 1st floor. And access to the SHU is controlled by a second locked door to which only correctional officers assigned to the SHU have keys while on duty. You would have to be pretty James Bond looking motherfucker to sneak in there and do anything crazy. Now, interestingly enough, okay, they would talk about his psychological intake screening. He said he didn't have thoughts of self-deletion, never attempted it, and told the psychologist he was not receiving treatment for his mental health. There was a very, very interesting point that was made in the next paragraph where they basically said they conducted a self-deletion risk assessment on him. He denied any mental health or self-deletion history. He didn't say that he wanted to check out. He said he was future-oriented, expressed a commitment to life and safety. The notes show Epstein said, he explicitly said, being alive is fun. Being alive is fun. He said being alive is fun. That's what he said. Okay? So, yeah, there you go. He was prescribed a few medications. All right, he met with blank while conducting a legal visit because he was spending an inordinate amount of time and day hours with his attorneys to avoid missing the completion of the follow-up. Blank briefly interrupted an attorney visit and met with Epstein privately. According to notes, he denied wanting to check out. Okay, he was seen by psychology in the presence of his attorneys while conducting a legal visit. The visit recommended no follow-up. They said he's good. All right. Epstein's attempt to establish guidelines for communication and bring his attorneys into the fray regarding his mental health treatment being provided by the institution. It's not typical for the Bureau of Prisons, I believe that is, for the BOP to provide psychological intervention in the presence of others. Okay. And then that's when he basically had the little run-in with his cellmate. His cellmate, blank, told them that Epstein had attempted to off himself. Correctional officers believed he had an orange homemade rope. That color is very interesting, which they removed. Correctional officers also observed he was breathing but unresponsive. I believe this was attempt number one and it failed, personally. He was placed on S-Watch by the operations lieutenant. Okay. Anyway, they conducted a post-S attempt of Epstein, directed he would be taken off. He said, I have no interest in offing myself. We already heard this, that he was depressed, he was unhappy. Basically, every single day between July the 25th and 29th, chief psychologists met with him, conducted a clinical contact. He denied any kind of ideation of wanting to check out. Daily psychology contact indicated he should be moved to another cell due to toilet issues. He was directed to have a cellmate, from what I understand. I don't think he ended up with a cellmate in the end. So this is like a timeline of everything that led up to it, right? Basically, July the 30th, 2019, they determined he didn't appear to be an immediate danger to himself. Okay, they said he must be housed with a cellmate when he returned to the SHU. Basically, everybody was informing everybody of the cellmate requirement. They were confident that people knew this requirement, but it didn't appear to have happened. Said that blank should have told blank and that blank should have told the SHU staff. Blank will be responsible for ensuring everything was in compliance. They provided in writing an email wording verbally. They didn't know Epstein. Blank said the SHU staff did know that he was supposed to have a cellmate. They heard it spoken about when he would visit the SHU more than one occasion doing rounds. Captain Blank said after the directive was issued, they spoke and directed him to ensure that Epstein had a cellmate. Okay. Personnel knew of his requirement because it was discussed during staff meetings, but apparently he spoke with Blank regarding Epstein. Blank said, get him a cellmate. He added, typically the MCC will house an inmate who was previously on S-Watch with a cellmate. So there was no BOP mandating that an inmate coming off S-Watch have a cellmate, but doing so was sound correctional judgment. They said it was common practice for prisoners coming off the watch to have it, but there's no BOP policy addressing the necessity of assigning cellmates to individuals coming off. Okay. Okay. Well, basically, right, this is all the lead up, all the things that should have been done but weren't. So it says here, all right, this is literally the day before. On August the 9th, 2019, that should be 2019, but it shows how easy a typo can be made, said they knew that Epstein was required to have a cellmate and were aware that Epstein's cellmate was selected at a higher level due to his high-profile status. So they needed to pick a super special cellmate. This person was off work on August the 9th, was unaware of blank transfer. Blank also said in the event he was at without a cellmate. The plan was to review the situation, decide with whom to place blank, but no inmate in the SHU pre-selected to replace blank if this event occurred. Blank said he directed blank to ensure that Sir Epstein had a cellmate. Nobody got it done. Okay, people were saying he needed a cellmate at all times, directed blank to ensure he had a cellmate. They told them a million times, all right? And they said, under this investigation, response stated that Century Quarters generated on August the 10th, 2019. There were 3 inmates assigned to his cell, including him at the time of his death. However, the SHU cell was only a double occupancy cell. Inmate blank, and inmate blank. They were all assigned to the same cell. But on August 13th, a quarters history roster was generated for inmates blank and blank respectively. Blank cell assignment was different. August 5th until August 11th when he was moved to another cell. Inmate blank cell assignment was blank. Basically, it didn't land. Now, what I've just seen here is quite disturbing. This is crazy. This is crazy that this is even allowed. According to a memorandum, Regional Director, on August the 9th, the court unsealed 200 pages of documents in the public domain. These included allegations against Epstein. Included was a book order receipt for the titles such as SM 101, A Realistic Introduction, Slavecraft, Roadmaps for Erotic Servitude, and Training with Miss Abernathy, a workbook for erotic slaves and their owners. Bro. So they was letting him put in work orders for books about having kinky slaves. That was allowed to fly, was it? It's insane. It's insane. Look. So look, I'm gonna dip out of that PDF for a minute. Pause. Excuse the pun, but I'm gonna dig deeper into that because I've just seen something that's absolutely crazy. I'm gonna have to make a whole video about it. Okay, but I want to just touch on a few more reactions to this date discrepancy before I wrap this one up. And a lot of people aren't buying this. A lot of people don't believe that this is evidence for a conspiracy that Epstein was actually murdered before the 10th of August, and I want to give kind of a little bit of credence to that side of things too, so you don't just think I'm a deranged conspiracy theorist. People saying, I don't think this is the smoking gun you guys are suggesting. I agree there's plenty to be skeptical about with Epstein's death, but the date on the US attorney's statement showing a day early doesn't prove they had some advance notice. I did a lot of word processing in prior jobs, and when you make a document that has to have a certain format or letterhead, you don't make it from scratch every time. You either use a template, or I would often just take a prior document and update it. Say you took one that you wrote the day before and update the text, but forgot to change the date on the letterhead. I made mistakes like this all the time. I know this stuff is really dark and hard to process, but it's important to be disciplined about the conclusions we draw from this evidence. Then people are saying, why was it pre-prepared though? Why was there a template for Epstein killing himself? Okay, saying anyone can write a past date on a document produced yesterday. It proves nothing. Seriously, you believe that people conspiring to commit murder would deliberately preserve evidence in the form of a public record? Tell me again, how gullible are you exactly? Okay, so there were 5 DOJ press releases issued by the Southern District of New York on Friday, August 9th, 2019. I suppose it's possible that someone carried over a date inadvertently on Saturday if using one of them as a template. Okay, that's fair. So I see some more comments on other versions of this that are interesting, okay? This person had an interesting little theory. It says, adding to this, see the BOP memo made on August the 10th, 2019, the day of death, stating that it was on the 8th that the camera system fault was flagged, and then seemingly notarized or confirmed in 2022 seems oddly late. In a deposition of the redacted individual who made the memo, said they were 100% sure they made this memo on the 8th. I've lost this, but it's there. Also, in an event that a prisoner just committed S under their care, is it realistic they'd immediately go to lodge a memo regarding the flagging of the cameras are down, which hadn't even been flagged down at this point as they were still pulling DVRs on that day? People saying, weird it was noted as happening on the 8th, even though it was the 10th. Although the 10th is a Saturday, why would you come in on a Saturday to note a camera problem from 2 days earlier? They said the file must have been called Epstein Death V3 Final Use This One.pdf. Oh my God. God forbid the public knows the tip line number. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, yeah. All right, look, I think I'm going to wrap it up there, okay? To me, I do feel like this is very suspicious. I think, as we've seen, there are so many coincidences with this case. It's kind of hard to just let things go and just say like, oh, it was probably a typo. It was probably just a typo. They probably just carried the one from the day before and, you know, they just used the template from the day before and they probably saved the PDF file and logged it before they put it out and it's now in the files. But then when you add that to everything else, like, yeah, and the cameras weren't working, and he said, I literally love being alive. He's like, okay. And he was supposed to have a cellmate, and they didn't have one. And he tried to do himself a few weeks before, but he didn't, and he said he was fine, and he didn't want to snitch on the cellmate. I want to do a video on his last phone call. I think the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to round this off. I'm going to start a new video about this suspicious final phone call when he lied and he said he wanted to speak to his mother, who apparently has been dead for years. There's rumors. I've just seen a comment that says that they think they know who he made that last phone call to. And the person that he made that call to is going to shock you. Okay, so I'm going to do that in the next video. Stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching this. Okay, I also love life. All right, love being alive. Just want to make that very clear at the end of this video. Okay, because shit get crazy, scary, spooky, and hilarious out here, okay? But thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching the other videos that I've posted about this topic. I'm going to keep it going, and we're going to get to the bottom of this story. Okay, I was going to stop, but I'm seeing so much stuff on Reddit, and you know that I'm the master of Reddit, so I'm just going to keep digging deep until I run out of things to talk about that you're interested in, which hopefully is never. But hey, the Epstein files, we might move on from those at a certain point, but for now, I know that's what you want to hear about. And of course, the equally important news of Clavicular getting frame-mogged by an ASU frat leader, if you saw the last video I posted. So anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed that and found that interesting. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think it's a massive conspiracy? You think they plan to kill him and they pre-saved the press release the day before? That would be chilling. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.